investing in real estate. Where should you do it? How should you do it? Scott Boyer is here from Done4uHomes.com. Okay, Scott, so we talked about investing in real estate. This is something that, we get to these points in the market where we've seen people are making tons of money.
Yeah.
And everybody starts to go, man, I got to just figure out how to buy that investment property. Here in San Diego, it's more difficult, I would say, than it is in most places because that 20%, when you're buying an investment property, you need 20 to 25% down.
Right.
So, if you're looking at a decent rental home here, let's call it $500,000, which I don't, you get something.
That means you've had it for a while.
You get something for that. Let's say you can get something for that.
Right.
Easy math. I need $100,000 to put down. So I put down the 100. I buy the house. I go find a renter. I charge them hopefully what I'm paying in the mortgage. And the idea is maybe I'll make a tiny bit of money on that per month, maybe. But my real game is the long game of this thing will go up in value and I'll have this paid off one day.
And because there are two different kinds of investors, and one I'm okay with it. It's not a fit. The guy that wants to get in there and play long, if he's got time, I'm fine with that. I totally get it. I would say that the better client that we have is the passive investor that understands cash flow. Cash is king, and they want the cash flow. And so they're at a point of either just their investing portfolio or they're just so busy they don't want to do it, and they're just looking for, hey, I want a good investment for my real estate. They could be flipping it out of San Diego because the numbers just aren't there, as you were saying, or they could be new and the barrier to entry is too tough here, and there's better ways to actually do it. And going out of state, but there's a couple questions that naturally always come up with that.
Well, and that's the thing. So people who are here, that want something here, they want to be able to drive by it, touch it with their own hands, tinker with it, whatever. That's one way of going about it. It's a difficult way to get. You can't really leverage much in that realm. Right. But for people who are maybe say more savvy or more exploratory, they might see dollar signs out of state.
Sure.
So they're looking at Idaho, Ohio, Indiana, Oklahoma. These are the places that they're looking, and they're going, I bought a fourplex in this place for whatever, and so they get excited about that. The downside to the out of state is you can't see it and touch it unless you get in a plane.
Right, and I've had those that have done that, and it's amazing as I hear their timelines, and you begin to kind of do the math of all the steps, the extra steps that they're taking, and I don't think that they realize the differential of what it's costing them really and long term that they're never going to make. They're digging a hole that I'm going to be so far ahead. Our clients are so far ahead because as soon as they close, if it's a cash deal, and which a lot of our clients are, or they're putting it in their IRA, whatever the case might be, they're going to cash flow immediately because everything is already done. So just that difference that they can actually choose a property, close on it, and if it's mid-month closing, we'll write them a check for half the rent because we've already got all those steps, including the renter, in place. Versus the person that wants to go do it themselves because they think that's just is the better path. Time and lost rent and extra costs, and then just all the questions of where they can get taken advantage of, unfortunately, of being out of state and trying to do it out of state themselves, that all those steps, that at the end of the day, when I compare it, it can be a 5-figure difference of where they're starting at in 5 months after flying and looking at the property and getting it rehabbed and finding the right contractors and then finding the property manager and then getting the renter in there. Just all those steps take time, and there's little pitfalls in all that when you do it out of state, which is why a lot of investors are kind of like, well, if it's up the street, at least I can go touch and see it. And so, well, I know it's not as much, but I think I can control that better. And so they will default to that versus saying, well, wait a minute. If the numbers are better, we all know that out of state is always better. But how do I not get taken advantage of? How do I kind of bridge all those steps to where I can really just kind of get to the investment and just, have it work for me and cash flow it and go do something else with my time, knowing that my money's working. So sometimes that gap is like, you look at it's like the Grand Canyon for a lot of investors. Like, I don't know.
Well, hence Done4uHomes because
Yeah.
Was easy.
that's what you guys do. You've made it easy, basically.
Yeah, and again, and we're not practicing. I mean, we're 10 years in and 500 homes in to where it's and again, here's something I think a lot of times is missed. It's our portfolio. So how we buy them, how we rehab them, how we manage them is for ourselves. So it's kind of like investors done for investors. So the process is done because it's our portfolio. We're happy to go ahead and cash flow them. It's fine. But everything is ready, so we're happy to do it the exact same way, and we have homes ready that are already done, so you can get out of that 5-month waiting period and all those steps and get right to the cash flow.
And if you want to see what some of these homes look like as far as just the ones that are ready to go, there's inventory of homes that are ready to go. Ready to go meaning they're fully rehabbed. The homes are in perfect condition to be move-in ready. They actually have a tenant in them.
Correct.
The lease signed, money is coming in. That's what you mean by you can get ahead, because as soon as you buy the place, you're getting money.
And our rehabs are just done. We just do them at a higher level because we know long-term for an out-of-state investor, which that's where the vast majority of our clients are, is that we have the 10 years is running somewhere about 44 months. So with the same tenant. So you also don't have that turnover, which means the rehab is done right. Because when a client is happy with the property, everything works, that means they're going to stay. You find the right kind of tenant. So all these steps that we've just done so many times over and over again eliminate so much of the headache. So now the out-of-state part becomes,
well, but Scott,
now that's a little bit,
I still can't see it, Scott.
right. Well, okay, so let me ask the question. So have you ever been to Los Gatos, California?
I have, actually.
Yeah, I love it.
There's a great hike there called Berry Creek Falls.
All right, fair enough. The average person, I would say, probably it says, well, I think I know where it's at, but I've never been there, or why would I even go there? Well, that's where Netflix is headquartered. So I always ask so if you buy Netflix stock because it's a good investment, but you haven't been to Los Gatos, what's the difference? I think because in our minds, it's a lot easier to hit, well, I'm buying something that well, I know who Netflix is. I know what their product is. And so I'm okay just hitting a button and buying the stock. I don't have to go there.
Because I use Netflix, I like it. A lot of people will buy stocks for those reasons, right? And by the way, try to buy a property in Los Gatos. 2,000 square feet is going to be $1.5 million.
Probably because Netflix.
It's probably because of Netflix. So
it's like going to Seattle.
Careful what you wish for, right? So, but now you're in Indianapolis, and you've chosen that market for a very specific reason. And a lot of people are looking at Indianapolis. In fact, I just spoke with someone last week, and he was saying, he was running something by me. He said, hey, I have this guy. There's a developer. He's doing all this stuff out in Indianapolis. What do you think, this and that? And it was very interesting because he was in the same boat where he was planning to go out to Indianapolis. And I guess if someone really wanted to come to Indianapolis and see the operation, that would obviously
I'll buy
be
them
fine.
a ticket. I'll buy them a ticket.
You'll buy them a plane ticket?
I will buy them a plane ticket.
To come to Indianapolis?
I will buy anybody that wants to come to Indianapolis that is serious. I'm happy to buy the plane ticket, because what I do understand is that with all the logical steps that I can explain about how everything that we do, and it's done, and it's rented and rehabbed, and all that checks boxes. But I understand is that a lot of times there's that last step of trust that they're like, well, I just need to touch and see. I need to go to Los Gatos. I just before I buy the stock, I want to go to Los Gatos. And some people are going to be like that, and I understand that because it's real estate, it's tangible, and so that's where our mind always goes, is the tangible side of I want to see it.
But you will buy the plane ticket. I mean, that's pretty cool.
But I guess if I'm in their seat, that again, when I first started buying mine in Indianapolis, I was only 3 hours away, but I still didn't even do the drive. And I could have easily done a drive to go see them. I literally saw the houses when the mobile closer came to my home. I said, it was almost like Christmas. It was like opening it up. It's like, let me see the picture, because I had never seen the house before. So, for me, maybe I was just a little bit different in the sense that I was okay with that. Maybe because it was 3 hours away and not a 4-hour flight. So, to bridge that, I'll buy the plane ticket. Because I understand is that from either a trust standpoint or just wanting to go ahead and touch and see all the pieces, sometimes that's just easier because in doing like we'll do 1031s and they need eight homes or something, or we're a piece of their 1031, so it's gonna be 4 or 5 or whatever. I get that. I'm okay with that. Come on out and touch and see and taste the cooking.
If that's what you want to do,
I get it.
it's okay.
It's
right?
okay.
It's okay. Still doesn't mean that you have to do all the headache stuff, all the other stuff.
That's the whole point, is that if you're a tinkerer in real estate and you like just to get in there and you want to get the grit under your fingernails, so you can say that you did the painting, in the 4 bedrooms, I'm okay with that. But that's a local thing, and it gets really hard to do that or to even justify it out of state.
Yeah.
If you're a true investor that wants the returns and get to true passive income, then you have to really look out of state, especially here in Southern California. There's just so many things that can go on and on of all the challenges that are facing out in the state, in the locality, and rents and everything else, that it's just not an environment that is optimal. So as a true investor would say, I need to maximize my money. Where can I do that? And if you just kind of hit the edge of the cliff where you're like, oh, it's out of state, how do I do that? And you back up, I would say, hang on, let's find a way to get over that gap so you can get to the promised land, which is that passive income.
There's a bridge right over here. Let's go find that.
Yeah.
Because when you look at it, and I've looked at it myself as well in the past when I was heavy into this, and I lived in Missouri, and I was looking actually at buying real estate out here, which doesn't make sense, and you find that out pretty quickly. But you get a lot of times people get sort of enticed, or they get this sort of love affair with the idea of appreciation. And that's what they get hooked into is, but wait a minute, so you mean you bought your house for $300,000 and then sold it a few years later for $400,000? You made $100,000? That's what people get, that's what's sexy to them sometimes.
Well, right, that's like being in the stock market for the last so many years, where everyone looks at what a great run it's been. But that does not last forever. And things do change.
For sure.
It changes in real estate, it shifts, it reverses back to the mean. It's kind of funny. You look at some of these houses and they're $1 million and it's for 800 square feet, and you're like, okay, that can't go on forever. It's just not a trajectory, whether it's a stock market or real estate. So the one that wants to do that and has time, and they want to play with some of the downturns, whether it's the stock market or whether it's in real estate, that's fine. I would say I'm more appealing to the investor that's looking for the cash flow. Because real estate in Indianapolis is not real sexy.
No, it's like Missouri. That's the same. Like I'm saying, I was drawn to out here because of the appreciation.
They're $80,000 homes.
Yeah,
that's bread and butter out there. And it's 80 to 100, whatever the case might be.
Right, but you're getting $900 to $1,100 a month in rent.
Right. So you're 8 to 10 cap rates all day long.
Yeah, even on big portfolios, people are buying 10 houses.
Right. It's
for
not
example,
right.
from you
It's
guys.
all going to be we will buy this. Typically the same kind of houses in the right neighborhoods. We know that area so well, so we know where to buy them. We rehab them in the same way. We don't do carpet. We do ceramic floors. We do all these things that will give that longer run for the investor, where there's not going to be a lot of deferred maintenance, and that's where you get into where they come back and buy more. Because I'm okay. Sometimes we'll have an investor start with 1 or 2. They're like, okay, I'll fly out. I'll see it. I'll buy 1 or 2. They're like, oh, this is kind of nice. And then they'll just call up and say, okay, I need to plan for 2 more in the next, like 3 months, whatever the case might be.
You know what's interesting? I have a guest coming on at 1 o'clock today that I think you would be really interested to hear what he has to say. He's one of the best traders that I've ever known. And we're going to talk about the stock market.
Nice.
And what's interesting is we saw, the trade talks with China create a little bit of, and then today I think we're up again. But we had a big down day yesterday, and there was a lot kind of leading up to that. The stock market right now is in one of those positions where it's kind of like, it feels like it's top heavy, and so
It felt like that for a while.
It's felt like that for a while. It
Right.
has. There's just
Yeah.
been so much good news
Right.
on the economic front, and like him or hate him, Trump keeps doing deals that make the balance sheet look good.
Yep.
So stocks keep running, but there's an election next year. And I have a lot of concerns about what's going to happen with the uncertainty associated with that election. I think there are a lot of I hate to call people baby boomers, right? But just a lot of people in that generation who are nearing retirement, who probably have a lot of money invested in the stock market, who might want to really take a hard look at their risk situation right here.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely, because I would say this is that look at what happened in '08 and how and that appreciation that fell off. And if you were counting on that money for cash flow, that became a real problem, and you began to rob the golden goose. And so if you think about, in fact, I just had a conversation with an investor. He's actually going to be cashing out his IRA. What I mean by that, he's just going to be taking it and putting it into properties.
Buying houses.
Correct.
Through you guys.
Right, through, and so it's still going to be in his IRA. But here's the thing, now he has something that even if when the market, stock market, real estate market flattens, corrects, whatever you want to say, is that he'll have the ability to have cash flow, keep coming in, and then at any point that he wants to have an exit strategy, it's a lot easier than you might think. We have investors all the time that we'll buy the houses back, it's fine, we have no problem with that. We've done that before when that works, and or they can just sell it outright in the market to an owner, an occupant owner. So there's always ways out, but the point is that when you need cash flow, you need cash flow. And what you don't want is to have a downturn where you rob the golden goose, because those drawdowns can really hurt the ability to have consistent cash flow. And so that's where I see a lot of these investors that are saying, you know what, I want to preserve, but I want the cash flow. Can I do both? And I'm like, well, in the stock market, that could be a little bit tougher, because that takes a lot more, per se, skill. And if you're just in it with the broker, and I can go into a lot of stories, if you don't have the skills to do it yourself, or you can count on that cash flow and you know that you can produce it. I mean, look at people in '08, it happened all over the place where they thought they were good, and the market just kind of threw them a curveball. Those curveballs can sometimes be hard to recover from. So real estate provides something very interesting. And then you talk about what's going on in Indianapolis or Indiana or out of state, how you want to take a look at it. There's a lot of stability in that, to where we give people, like, I would say, their piece back of like, we can get the cash flow and give that cash flow to where go have your life and do your life, and mailbox money, direct deposit. It's not mailbox money anymore.
No, yeah,
it's direct deposit. I mean, I think that we now direct deposit well over $600,000 a month into our investors' accounts.
That's amazing.
Well, I love it, because every time that happens, I know that it's going to be a lot of $600,000.
I was going to say, I have to do that a bunch.
But it's peace of mind. Every time we do that, I'm delivering peace of mind to an investor somewhere, because that's cash flow.
Yeah.
And real estate isn't going to appreciate huge, but their underlying asset is preserved, and they've got a hard asset.
And you can actually do some math with people too, especially people, when I talk about people who are retiring or looking at retirement, especially in that age range. When you can sit down and go, okay, well, how much do you need? How much do you need to bring in? How can we structure this? Because you could also leverage, like, you could buy out of your IRA and just use down payments and finance, right? I mean, you could, say, hey, well, I'm going to use my retirement account to do my down payments on all these, and I'm going to buy 15 instead of 3.
Now, I would say, and when you do it in an IRA, you do have to buy the full property.
You do have to buy the whole
Correct.
Thing. Okay, so you
Yeah,
can't.
yeah.
So if you were going to buy, I guess because it's an investment property,
right,
not your primary residence.
Right.
That makes sense.
So if you've got $1 million sitting in there, then you buy the full property, and get up to where you want to stop, whatever the case might be. But I would look at that as a partial or whatever transfer. It's just like a 1031.
Yeah, but you can basically come up with a plan. Like, you can say, okay,
Absolutely.
hey, you need to make $8,000 a month. Okay.
I have these conversations with investors all the time. They're like, here's what I got to get to. How far can I get to that right now? And especially, I would say, is if they're in the stock market and they're getting from just the appreciation, and they're trying not to rob the nut. The problem is, I would say, is that here's the risk. If the sooner you get out of that and get into real estate, you've got some stability, because rents, especially in down markets, where do people always go to? The rental market actually becomes even more stable, just because as money gets tighter, where do people go? They've got to live somewhere. So rents and rental markets that are good and strong stay strong.
That's true. Yeah, it's definitely true. When things get tough, people do go to
and
the
that's
places
that
that are
good stability for the investor. And out of state, it just runs and just keeps clicking along. And that is what I say gives the sleepability factor to an investor to do out of state. But if any gaps come up along the way, work through them or let us help work through them. The questions that an investor has, whether they are new, doing a 1031, want to do it through their IRA, there's not a question that we haven't, or a situation we haven't come up with that there isn't a way to bridge that gap. And especially I would say the trust factor, because I understand that. I get it, and I think the easiest way is let me put you on a plane. I'm here in San Diego. But everything is run. So my partner, Michael, he's been on the show before via phone calls, and he runs everything back there. So the nice thing is you've got someone local. Michael runs everything. He really, as a founder, he's written a book. I mean, call me, I'll send you the book. Sometimes that helps to hear the backstory of how it started.
Pretty cool story, actually.
Yeah, and it really is just an investor that started. I mean, Michael started it for his mom, as a way after his dad died, and a few friends asked, and it just kind of it grew into a business out of something he did for a son's love for his mother. And it's a great story, but that to me is how good businesses and models actually start.
Yeah, organically.
Right. It starts out of, and that it just becomes a brand that you've got a better mousetrap, and it works. And it accidentally started of how the California piece started. That's a great story. I'll kind of leave that for later. But I would say probably about 60 to 70% of our clients come from California, for obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got a big profit. You want to 1031 that and parlay it into a huge cash flow. You're going to go out of state.
Yeah, and we'll have new ones that are saying, I want to get into real estate, but I can't for what it requires. And I said, look, if you got 20 grand down, well, you're golden. Let's start. So whatever their end goal is, maybe you're not going to get there with one house, but it's a way that every 20 grand you're going to cash flow. In fact, we can even get them cash flowing on a 15-year note.
That's wild.
It's crazy.
That's wild. So I mean, what's cool about that is, if you are going to finance them, you can set yourself up and go, okay, hey, in 15 years, let's finance as many of these things as we can. And 15-year notes. And in 15 years, we're going to have these 10 properties.
You could probably do
paid.
it sooner because they cash flow if you want to, because their rehabs, you're going to get a run with probably no deferred maintenance, but maybe a filter or a toilet ring. I mean, there's not a whole lot that's going to go wrong. So now you can take that extra money that's cash flowing, accelerate it. You accelerate that mortgage on the 15, you can probably get it down to 10 and a half years.
And then that's a retirement plan.
There you go.
And then when we're going back to the stock market, so full circle on that, we just hit an all-time high, I think, 2 weeks ago? We hit an all-time high again, which is another new all-time high. So we keep making all-time highs, which means we've never been in this territory before.
Yeah, and you're never going to get out the top. But so, I would say, but you're at a top. So the nice thing is maximize that and put it into something that's not going to have that drawdown, because I promise you that the harder a stock market runs up, the faster it runs down. You can look at it back from 2000, from 2008. I mean, I know a lot of the stuff from another side of my career. And so it is something that when that sucker goes and drops, it will be horrific at the pace that it moves down. So it's just a great time to say, it's kind of like locking in your profits. Everybody always wants to get out the top. You're not going to get out the tippy top. But if the numbers work of saying, man, if I get out now, imagine I can set myself up almost generationally, because once it drops, it's going to be a while before it comes back to that level again. It very well might. It might not.
True. Doesn't have to.
Doesn't have to. So it just is a great opportunity to have a foresight of, I could really max all this gain and flip it into something that is going to hold its value. It might take a bit of a dip, but the cash flow will outweigh that in long term. Cash flow is king, especially when you want to be a passive investor. So the passive investor is, again, also a large part of whether someone's starting to be a passive investor or already saying, I need to reposition so I can finally flip the switch, call myself a passive investor, because now I got mailbox money coming in.
Direct deposit money.
Direct deposit money.
Direct deposit money.
Yep.
So, and I think that would be something that I would challenge investors to do as well. Reach out to Scott and do the worksheet. Like, okay, hey, how much do you need in cash? What do we need to do to get there? To get to take a look at the assets you have now. Create a game plan.
I had this conversation, and the guy did not think that he could get there. And we run the numbers, and there was this giant pause. He's just like, "Holy cow! Because normally we're going to be at 2, 2.5. Sometimes we can get to a multiple of 3 of cash flow of what they were getting in California.
Wow.
So it's like wait a minute. So I'm gonna this is that's like wait a minute, that changes everything. Well, yeah, sure. I mean, think about being just within just shoot, we can close in 15 days on cash. It's pretty easy. All of a sudden, cash flow starts coming into where you're now getting 2.5 times of what you were getting the previous month. I mean,
it just keeps coming.
Right, and it just keeps coming. I mean, that's stuff that changes people's lifestyle.
It does.
Or it keeps their lifestyle.
You know what it makes me want to do?
Yeah. But so that's the fun part is that when those deposits go in and we do that, I'm delivering people's lifestyles, and we're delivering something that we do in the same way for ourselves, which is again how Michael began to build it and what we're continuing to build with California investors and bringing them back and putting them in a process that just works, where it's just done. No headaches, process is set, and that's not hard.
I really appreciate that. All my years in financial talk radio, consumer advocacy, trying to help people figure out, okay, what is the way that you can get to the promised land, where you can get to where you feel that feeling of financial freedom, a security, owning a home, owning rental real estate, having cash flow, being secure, in your investments. Very difficult to do in most situations. I think you guys have done a tremendous job in making that a reality for people, and I think it's really awesome that you're doing it. And I think it's awesome that you're willing to fly people to Indianapolis if they want to check it out.
I will buy you a plane ticket.
That is so cool.
Come on, that's because if that gaps it, I mean, we are just investors doing it for investors the same way that we do it. And we live in a glass house. You can come out and touch and see everything. There's nothing. It really is fully transparent for you to get there, where you can check the boxes, including that last one, and say trust, and say, you know what, this makes complete sense, and these guys are real, and let's do it. I like that. That's
what
those
everyone is interested in.
That's
Well,
right.
I'm starting a new radio show. I'm back on the radio starting in June.
Nice.
So I had to get the sound buttons
There you
out.
go. There you go.
All right, click the link below for more information. Hey, if you want to figure out how you can retire on rent, Scott will do the math for you and help you figure it out. Click on the link and reach out and share this video with your friends. Let's help make them smarter than everyone else. Let's help everyone retire on rent.